The new Broken Rain Incursion is finally here, and if you've jumped in and had absolutely no idea what you're supposed to be doing, this video is going to break down every encounter and mechanic as simply as possible. I'll show you exactly what we did during our clear, what you need to focus on, and most importantly, how the boss mechanics actually work. One thing to know before going in, prototype gear can be used in Broken Rain, but it gets normalized and prototype augments are disabled, so don't rely on those bonuses for your build. With that out of the way, let's get into the first encounter. The first section is probably the simplest encounter in the incursion. When you enter the area, clear the initial enemies and make sure you're keeping an eye on the snipers around the outside. Once the first boss comes out, this is mainly just a straight DPS check. You want your DPS players focusing as much damage onto the boss as possible while your healer keeps everyone alive. The biggest thing here is positioning. You can use the wooden pallets and the stage area for cover, which keeps you protected from a lot of the incoming fire while still giving you a good angle on the boss. The snipers are probably your biggest threat here, so if one of them gets an angle on the team, take them out before going back to the boss. Other than that, burn the boss down, finish off the remaining enemies, and then you can move on to the next section. This next encounter introduces the Warhound mechanic. When you first enter this area, don't immediately run straight out. Clear the enemies from around the stairs first, and watch for anyone trying to flank the team. Once the area is under control, you need to start moving the Warhound forward. The aim is to get it past the mounted gun and towards the raised bridge. While you're doing this, focus your damage onto the APC and clear anything that could stop the Warhound from moving. Try to stay ahead of the Warhound where possible because you want the enemies focusing you rather than constantly shooting it. Once you get the Warhound into position near the bridge, you'll move into the boss section. And this part is actually pretty straightforward. There's a large truck that gives you really good protection from the missiles, so use that as your main position and start putting as much damage into the boss as possible. Keep your healer nearby, deal with any enemies that push you and burn the boss down. Once he's dead, you're onto what I think is the first proper mechanic heavy encounter. Now we get to the turbine room. This is where communication starts becoming much more important. Around the room you have two valves, one on either side of the central control area. You need to activate the valve and then activate its corresponding control inside the middle room. You only get a limited number of opportunities to complete this correctly, so you don't want everyone running around trying to do different things. The easiest method is having one dedicated player dealing with the valves and controls, while your healer keeps the team alive and your DPS players deal with enemies and snipers. And make sure you kill the snipers quickly because they can still shoot directly into the control room. Now for the actual boss mechanic. You'll notice Iris has this electrical storm around her. Do not just sit there shooting into it. Her shield is linked to the generators and pylons around the room. As you drain the shield, she'll eventually move towards one of the generators to recharge it. This is the important part. When she goes to recharge, hit her with an EMP. That temporarily removes the shield and gives your DPS players their opportunity to absolutely unload into her. Once the shield comes back, repeat the exact same process. Drain it, wait for her to move towards the generator, EMP her, and then damage her. Crowd control is extremely useful here as well because she can be foamed, which makes controlling her movement much easier. Keep repeating the mechanic until Iris goes down, then you can move towards the top of the dam. Now we get into one of the more annoying sections. Your objective here is to open the sluice gates. You need to pick up the key from one console and carry it across the area to the other console, and you're going to have to do this 3 times. The problem is, the second you pick that key up, the game starts throwing basically everything at you. The person carrying the key gets targeted by gas mortars, shock traps appear around the route, new enemies start spawning, and you've also got snipers covering the area. So don't have the whole team blindly following the key carrier. Have your DPS and crowd control players dealing with the snipers and enemies while your healer moves ahead of the person carrying the key. That way, the key carrier has healing available as they make their way across. After completing the first run, you'll also start getting heavier enemies around the activation area, so this gets progressively more difficult. Get all 3 runs completed, and then you'll move into the final boss encounter. Now for the final boss, and this looks much more confusing than it actually is once everybody knows their job. The first thing you need to understand is the sluice gates still matter during the boss fight. There are 3 terminals around the area, and throughout the encounter they'll start flashing green. You'll also hear an alarm when one needs activating. Ideally, dedicate 1 player to watching these terminals. When one lights up, activate it as quickly as possible. If you keep missing them, the sluice gates begin closing and eventually you can wipe the entire team. While that player handles the gates, everyone else can concentrate on the boss. But there's another catch. The boss has essentially unlimited healing at the beginning, so simply dumping bullets into her isn't going to kill her. Instead, focus the backpack in weak points. Once you break the backpack enough, she'll move over towards one of the supply boxes around the arena to replenish. That's exactly what you want her to do. After this, a named enemy will spawn. Kill that enemy and they'll drop thermite. Pick the thermite up and use it to destroy the supply box the boss was using. Now you repeat the process. Keep the sluice gates open, control the adds and snipers, break the boss's backpack, force her towards another supply box, kill the named enemy, grab the thermite, destroy the box, and then do it all again. A really clean team setup here is having one player dedicated to crowd control and the sluice gates, one healer keeping everybody alive, and your 2 DPS players concentrating on the boss, snipers, and named enemies. Players clearing the encounter today are using variations of exactly this setup. Once you've destroyed her supply boxes, you've finally taken away her ability to keep recovering. At that point, forget the mechanics and absolutely melt her. Get everybody shooting the boss, finish her off, and that is Broken Rain completed.